Okay, hi guys. Another monthly training. We're on month 3 since I started this. I just want to welcome you all today. Thank you for joining me at a different time today. We actually have somewhere to go early this morning. It's the weekend, so I'm just trying to squeeze this in before the day gets started. But thank you for joining me. I'm so glad to be chatting already with a couple of you. And if you are just joining on, please say hello. If you're unable to chat, you need a YouTube account. So don't worry if you can't chat if you're just tuning in. I know you're there. And if you're watching this on the replay, that's awesome too. You can always leave a comment down below. It's kind of like I'm using YouTube as my platform, so it's like this live aspect. And then afterward, I save it and repost it, and then it's just saved there as a YouTube video. And it's just private, so only you guys can view it, and then you can leave comments down below in case you didn't get a chance to chat with me. So you can always find all the replays at that link that I'm going to leave in the description box. It's piecescalligraphy.com/student trainings, and that way you can catch all the replays. You can also just kind of see what's ahead. I haven't quite gotten around to coming up with a list of topics to come out so that you can kind of look ahead. I am working on that. So as I take your requests and your questions, then I'm going to hopefully come up with like a schedule. That way you can kind of look ahead to what the training is going to be about. But for these first couple of trainings, I'm really just focusing on transitions and continuing on with just fine-tuning those muscles and making sure that I'm helping you troubleshoot early on. Because remember, it's better to build good habits than it is to break bad habits, right? You might have heard me say that at some point. I'm going to hop over back to my screen here. Again, if you're just joining in, thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate you taking time out of your day. And I would like to hear, oh, look, it's my sister. Hi, sis. And hi, Gail. Who did I miss? And Ileana. Nice to see you all. So if you can hear me, give me a thumbs up, say hey, let me know that the sound is coming in clearly because I'm using a different device this morning, but I can switch back to the old one if needed. So I'm using my AirPod, trying to be super fancy and with the trendiness these days, and hopefully that's working out. And then I think people earlier were telling me that they could see the screen. So we only have half an hour, so let's dive right in. And again, if you're just joining in, please leave me a comment, say hi, let me know what your name is, if you were in my online course or in my workshop. I just love hearing who's on the other side of the screen because it may or may not feel sometimes surreal just talking and hoping people are out there on the other side. All right, so for today's topic, I want to just really continue honing in on our transitions. So as you can see here, I did kind of like a little do this. Oh, you know what? I can't believe this happened. Yes, Bud? You want to watch another one? Okay, hold on. I just realized I totally swapped this. It should actually be. Sorry, guys. I'm in another room working on my webinar just because we've been having internet issues, and so you're going to hear some noises in the background, but that's okay. That's real life. So I meant to say do this on the right side and not that. Does that make sense? Here, let me pull that up close so you can see. And the reason why I want to hone in on this, I kind of mentioned this already, is that it's important to build these muscles and truly feel the difference in when you are applying the pressure at the right time compared to not. It's kind of that tipping point in building those muscles when you can really feel like you can write anything. And if you guys know me, I'm going to hop over because when I get all preachy and talking analogies, I love comparing this to, say, riding a bike. Okay, so in the beginning, and if you've taken a workshop with me lately, I've been really driving this analogy. It's like when you're riding a bike for the first time, you have to learn how to put your feet on, where to put your hands, how to move the pedals at the same time as steering, like all these things that you have to kind of build your muscles. And then once you're not thinking about those things and actively worrying about where all of your body parts have to go, you're not so stressed out about, am I staying on the road properly? What if I fall? When you can get past that hump, it's a whole new world. Then you can take that bike, you can drive anywhere, or bike anywhere. You can bike downhill, uphill, you can go on, maybe not too crazy, right? But you can feel confident. So if we translate that into our writing, that's why it's so important to me to hone those skills and make sure that you're not still troubleshooting all of those things that are preventing you from writing anything that your heart desires. So I love the enthusiasm when you, and when I say you, I'm talking students who want to just write everything, which is great. I'm not saying you can't write everything, but these take away from these monthly trainings with me, these extra trainings, these ways to fine tune and slowly start getting over that hump so that you're not so shaky and overthinking things, and you can really just enjoy the ride, right? So I'm going to hop back over to my workspace here. So when we talk about doing this, not that, what we're talking about here, you can see that, let's talk about this first one, okay? So again, think in terms of when to apply that pressure. Notice how after my loop here, I don't even apply pressure until later, much later. I definitely used to do something like this on the left side here. I'm going to try to bring you down closer. But the issue with this, and if you look back at some of my old work, like on Instagram or whatnot, you'll see that I have a lot of this thickness here. So let's talk about how we can take that out. Let me get a different sheet of paper here. Okay, so I'm going to keep that handy as our reference. Okay, so let's focus on this first one. When you create that thin stroke, and sorry for all the shadows too, that's kind of the downfall in having to work in a different space. Okay, so this is not to scale. Sorry, I don't have guidelines here. So let's just focus on where the transition happens. So it's here, after I've curved around. So remember, we start here, we go around, and then after I make that curve, I'm going to put my pressure. So do this, okay? Not come around here and then immediately, like full speed, right? It's like I'm not going to gradually go into that pressure. Okay, maybe I exaggerate this a little too much, but we're not going to do this. I'm just going to pop in the chat real quick because I see some new people, Nicoya, and is that Lisa? And Anne. Hi guys, thanks for joining this morning. We're talking transitions and just continuing to drill down on how we can chisel away at this thickness here, because what's happening is it makes it very top heavy. Okay, so let me show you, let's do an example. So what we don't want is we start with that thin stroke and then we immediately press down into full pressure. Okay, this happens pretty often, I see. What we want to do is start with our light pressure, make that curve, and then press down. And it's gradual too. We don't even press down fully. We are gradually adding that pressure. Okay? And if you are a lefty here, you know that all of this still applies. If I'm coming here with my left hand, then I am starting with light pressure, and forgive my shakiness, but it's not until after I make that curve that I'm going to press down. Okay, so other than the shakiness, I hope you can see that I'm pressing down after that curve. Okay, so do this, not that. Okay, and you know, whenever you are struggling still with this concept, I love tell people to break it down, right? Take a step back. Go back to my roller coaster drills that we did in the first monthly training, and you'll find that in the student training link. That's the first monthly training that we did. If you have to pull over to the side and do a couple of those roller coaster drills just to like feel when to press down, when to get lighter, press down, when to get lighter. So I'm just kind of doing this. I'm not giving any thought to the shape or the size, but I am focusing on the very tip and staying on the tip until after the curve and then pressing down. So the pressing down happens after the curve. And then you can go the other way. So with this one, I started this way. You can start this way from the right to left here. Okay, so you can start on the tip of your pen and then press down, then get lighter again. Okay, so I'm not going to focus too much on that roller coaster drill because that was that first monthly training. But let's continue down here with the next example. Hi, Nanette. So good to see you. I don't know if you follow basketball, but we were watching the Jazz win last night. Okay, not that I'm a fan. I'm just neutral. I just happen to watch it. Okay, so let's talk about the ovals here. So what's happening is, remember that oval's tricky because it's so much happening in one simple shape. And so we start here a little bit below that waistline, unless you're starting at the top, which is another alternative. And it's not until after we curve that we put that pressure, and then it's before we get down to the baseline that we need to release that pressure. So if we kind of isolate this shape here, it looks like this. It's kind of like this crescent moon. And I'm kind of exaggerating here, but I want you to see that the transition happens after the curve, okay? And then before we get to that baseline is when we want to get back to that hairline. So a couple of things. We can stem from here in two directions, okay, if we want to focus just on that curve. So let's do number one here. Then you can start at the top there at that waistline, immediately press down, and then immediately come back to light pressure, and then finish with a light stroke. So see how I started here, and then I immediately went into my full pressure. The full pressure is in the middle, and then I released back. Okay, so looks like that. And then, or number two here, I can start a little bit below my waistline. Okay, we need a X height here. Okay, and so let's use this here as my X height, and then we'll start a little bit below and light stroke, and then this touching this waistline is kind of my green light to then slowly add my pressure. Remember that example I gave of pressing down on the gas after the curve, and then here as I'm approaching this next curve, if I'm imagining my car example, then I'm releasing the gas or the pressure because I want to get back to that hairline at the baseline. Okay, so is this making sense, you guys? I know you've seen a lot of this in one shape, one way, shape, or form, but I feel like this is so important to get. You know what I mean? So let me know, those of you in the chat, if this is helping or if it's making sense, and let me know too if it's not, if you're kind of missing anything or if there's something further you want me to take this with. Yes, always remembering my lefties. Okay, so let's do this last one, and then hopefully we can move on to a couple of examples here. We're at our halfway point already. So actually, sorry, I love these pens. They erase. You guys heard of these? They're friction pens. So I've been using them for demos and notes and stuff. So let's look at this underturn here. We should have kind of I think we should have done the oval last. So full pressure, right? And then I want to get back to a hairline at the baseline, okay? So the key here is you have to have your mind ready to release. I think what happens sometimes is, let's look at this example on the left. It's like an afterthought, and we're going heavy, 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 and then it's like, okay, now we're turning, making that curve, and then we're saying, okay, now it's time to release. But what happens is we've already hit the baseline, and it's too full, it's too heavy. So I'm seeing a lot of this heaviness, and then it comes out like this. See that here? It's very subtle. Let me bring you in closer. It's subtle if you don't know any better, right? If you're one of my students, you probably already see what I'm getting at. But an outside person who doesn't have that critical eye that I know you all do, they don't see this heaviness that's happening here. Okay? And so you can imagine if you're making, let me give you a practical example. So if I'm writing, Saturday, and I have this heaviness, it's really hard for me to do that. It's hard for me to write with this example. So all of these areas here, okay, we can chisel down on that thick stroke so it's not so bottom heavy. So then as you write your word, and again, I apologize for the shadows, we just want to take a little bit off. Okay, so I'm doing this so you can kind of see where I'm going with this. I know sometimes it's hard when we're always focusing on the basic strokes and these individual strokes. So I want you to have a practical example. Okay, so can you see the difference there? Okay, and this bold example isn't too bad if you have the consistency in the letter forms, but for me personally, I just feel like it's like such a relief and a breath of fresh air to get these smoother and cleaner transitions into a thin stroke. Does that make sense? So what I'm getting at from here is if we can try to avoid this bottom heaviness, then we can come over here to something that looks more like this. And then now we're just completely on the thin stroke. And again, if that's a little overwhelming, you can break it up at the bottom here and just create this stroke first. You can actually practice these because what's going to happen is you're going to connect, choose another color here. You're going to connect that to another stroke. Oh, I don't think you can see my green. Just here's my first stroke. Okay. All right, how are you doing? So does that make sense? Let's go ahead and give me a couple of letters. I saw that Lucy had some letters you said transitions from, and I think you're talking connections from W to H and W to I. So we can go ahead and do those. Let me write that down again. W to H, W to I. I'll work on those letter connections. If anyone else has some requests or examples that they want me to do, please let me know. Okay, I'm going to stay away from, let me put this onto the side. I'm sorry, let's just use my practice sheet here. Okay. What pen am I using? I'm sorry, guys, and I'll list this down below. This is the Kuretake Fudegokochi pen. Can you guys see that? This is delicious, this pen. I used to only just have it in black, and then I noticed that they came in colors, so I ordered these from Kuretake directly, but I have found them on jet pens, And actually, Joann's, like, as of last night, I saw, has them on sale. Just the black one, not the ones in color. This is the pack that I bought. Okay, and I just shared this on Instagram recently too, if you want to take a peek. Yeah, V is hard too. Okay, so you can try to do those 3 examples, and that'll probably be our time together. So for the W to H, okay, let's just do an entrance stroke here. Okay, underturn, underturn, and then we need to connect this W to the H. And so we give it a comma dot. You can make this a little bit lighter, but this connection separates the letter from the H. If you don't have this, or it's not very definitive, like you can't notice it very much, it's going to be kind of hard to distinguish between the 2 letters, okay? Let's just put who, just to give it a full one, okay? Another way you can do this, so this is kind of very your traditional and standard letter connections, right? If you want to get a little bit modern with it. Yeah, Nanette, I didn't know they came in colors too until I was trying to order some for some future workshops. And when I saw this 4-pack, I thought, oh, I have to try them. But only those 4 colors. If you ask me, I wish there was kind of more like vivid, or I would love to see even more colors, right? We get something and then we want even more. So you don't have to make that connection so thick. See, I didn't really do a full comma dot there. I just connected it lightly, but then you can see very clearly the W and the H. Or if you want to get even really modern, you can make this a loop. I like to add a little bit of pressure here just to give it some depth. Okay. Okay, and then WI, let's come down here. Maybe like when, kind of giving it some context. Okay, so see how you see these letters individually, or if you don't want to do such a thick comma dot. And today's training is not so much on spacing, but I do want to kind of point this out to you guys, how, see how these are kind of like individual units here. So if you keep that in mind as your, I mean, mine aren't totally perfect, but if you think of each of these strokes with this rhythm and consistency, then you can really see the each letter, and then as a whole you can read it. Okay. Okay, I'm glad your connection is good. And then V, right? Let's see. How about like the word view? At least we can get another W in there. So the V is, remember, we want to do a compound curve if you're sticking with this copper plate style, okay? If you want to do something more like a brush lettering without regard to copper plate, then you can go ahead and break some of those rules with, so I'm using the compound curve here. It makes it very rounded. You can still see some of my curved. You can still see it's so hard for me to break that after I've built those muscles, right? Or you can have some fun here. Okay. This is just me kind of like loosening my grip and just sort of retaining that V uh, shape. Okay. Kind of see the progression here. Okay, let me bring you guys back up. All right, so we talked about our transitions here. I want to ask you guys something. I want you guys this week, actually no, you guys have the whole month because we won't be back on for a month. Your sort of mini homework assignment is to work on these transitions, and kind of you saw the way I presented these to you. I took a single basic stroke, really honed in on that, and you can take it a step further and do a couple of drills with that letter or that basic stroke. And if you remember, because I know I have different students here, online course and workshop, you have those example drills on what you can practice with these. But now I want you to use that mindset, that focus on these transitions. So you might have done them before, but you can always redo the same drills. You can always go through the alphabet and focus on this one thing, these transitions, making sure that they're really cleaned up. Patricia, yes, so spacing, I'm going to write that down. Anyone else have requests for future trainings? If you're watching this on the replay, or if you didn't get a chance to chat now, maybe you're here live, you can always come back to this video in the replay and leave a comment, okay? So definitely do that. I will definitely do trainings. Oh, right. Okay, so I'm reading Lucy's comment talking about the W. Yeah, the W is kind of weird, just for lack of a better word, in copperplate because it's so rounded. But you can definitely do a more, I hate to say like normal or like regular W. Okay, but you still want to, okay, let's work on that spacing. You still want to differentiate the W from the I. Okay, so that's something to be kind of careful about. Or, oh, you know what I like to really do with the W, because it has this weird shape? I often will break up that last stroke this way. It's just kind of my own style I picked up, and then I'll continue the word this way. So see how I give it its own definition, but then I continue on with the whole word. So I've been doing that. So I break that connection there. So I hope that's helpful. And that's all we have time for, you guys. It just flies by, right? So thank you again so much for joining me. I don't know if, is baby there, babe, to say hi? Okay, so again, you guys, I will have this replay ready at the link there for you. Hi, Bud. You want to say hi to everybody? She is growing like a weed, you guys. Look at this big girl. Hi, Bubba. Can you say hi? So she's distracted with everything that's in front here. So just a couple of reminders. I will see you next time, Saturday, at last Saturday of the month. And today's time was a little different than usual. But here, you can play. Oh, maybe not the metal part. Today's time was a little different, but it's usually going to be at 9 o'clock Pacific time. Whoa, she's strong. And again, if you haven't checked out the Facebook group, I have some ideas of building that up as our little community, just a place to check in more. I know not everyone's on Facebook, and I wish, like, all I want for Christmas is a platform that I can have that's like, bless you, like a non-Facebook type Facebook for us, right? So if anyone knows of a platform like that, let me know. The idea is that we have a place that we can chat and leave comments and post photos and get feedback, because Facebook right now is kind of the easiest platform to do that. Most people are on there, a lot of people are on there, but so that's what I'm going to go with for now. So I'm sorry if you can't be part of that, but if you want to make a separate account just to log in, that would be awesome. And otherwise, can you say bye? Look, say bye-bye. She's probably confused because there's no one to say bye to. Bye-bye. Show them that you learned bye-bye. Look, ready? Bye-bye. Can you say bye-bye? Bye-bye. How about kiss? Kiss? Okay, guys, I'll catch you next time. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Now I have to find where to end.